All right, so you're out there on the road and you're hearing all this news about the trucking market.
Yeah.
And it's all over the place, right? One minute it's like truck orders are through the roof, the next minute.
Slam on the brakes.
Yeah, it's a whiplash feeling. Like, what's the real deal here? So that's what we're diving into today.
We are going deep on this one.
We're calling this a deep dive because we've got articles, stories, anecdotes, data, all kinds of stuff.
We do.
And we want to help you make sense of it, all right?
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, this information, it's not just headlines, it's your livelihood. It's how you put food on the table.
It's your life.
It's your life, and we want to make sure you're equipped to navigate it all.
We want you to feel empowered.
Absolutely. So we're talking about everything from the ups and downs of truck orders
Oh, yeah. Those numbers are wild.
to what's going on with dispatch and how to deal with burnout,
Important stuff.
how to avoid those financial traps, especially with lease purchase agreements,
Oh, boy. Those can be tricky.
and even how something like the upcoming solar eclipse can actually mess with your routes.
Yeah, we don't think it.
Yeah, you don't think about it. And of course, we got to talk about the future of trucking.
The tech, the trends.
All of it. Plus, we're going to get real about how life on the road impacts your connections back home.
Your family, your relationships.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we know you're more than just a driver.
That's right.
You're a person with a life, and we want to support you in every aspect of that.
Let's get started.
So let's start with those truck orders.
All right, let's do it.
Because the numbers are kind of confusing, honestly.
They are a little bit, yeah.
On the one hand, year-over-year orders are way up.
34%.
That's huge.
Is big.
Sounds like good news, right? Like the
Right.
industry is booming.
You'd think so, right?
Right. But
Well,
then
you look at the month-to-month numbers, and
April was a little different.
it was down almost 10%.
9.8 to be exact.
Okay, so what's going on here?
Well, it seems like the bigger fleets, they're kind of betting on the future. They're thinking long term.
Yeah, they're seeing this increase year over year,
Yeah.
and they're saying, okay, maybe we're coming out of this recession.
Right.
Maybe freight demand's going to pick up. So they're investing in new trucks, getting ready for that rebound.
So that makes sense for them, but why the dip in April then?
Well, I think that's where the reality of day-to-day trucking comes in.
Yeah, the here and now.
Exactly. Freight rates, they're not skyrocketing. Diesel prices are still high.
Still flirting with $4 a gallon.
Yeah, and insurance costs, forget about it. They just keep going up.
And that hits everyone, but especially smaller carriers, owner-operators.
For sure.
So it's like this push and pull, right?
Yeah, you got some folks feeling optimistic about the long game
Yeah.
and others being cautious in the short term.
It's a mixed bag.
It is. And I think that's the key takeaway here. If you're a trucker, you got to be flexible. You got to be adaptable.
You gotta roll with the punches.
Exactly. And especially think twice before making any big financial commitments.
Right. Like buying a new truck.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Speaking of which, we came across this story about Marcus, an owner-operator.
Oh, yeah. What happened with him?
Well, he's got close to 1 million miles on his current rig.
Wow, that's a lot of miles.
Yeah, and then boom, his turbo goes out, major repair.
Ooh, that's got to hurt.
Big time. So naturally, he starts thinking about upgrading, getting a newer truck, but then he crunches the numbers.
Yeah.
And the payments were going to be like $2,400 a month.
Whoa, that's a huge jump.
Right. So he started asking himself some really smart questions like, is the freight I'm hauling going to consistently cover these payments?
Good question.
What if I lose one of my steady lanes?
Yeah, there's a big risk.
Do I have enough saved up for any other surprise repairs?
You got to be prepared.
You do. So in the end, Marcus decided to hold off on the new truck. He got his current one fixed up.
Smart move.
Yeah, and he's focusing on building up his savings until the market feels a little more stable.
That's playing it safe.
It is, and I think a lot of drivers can relate to that right now.
Absolutely. You know, in Marcus's story, it's actually part of a bigger trend we're seeing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, instead of taking on that huge debt for a new truck, a lot of smaller fleets and owner-operators, they're getting really creative with their current equipment.
Like what kind of creative?
Well, they're looking into things like glider kits to basically rebuild their trucks.
Oh, wow. So it's like getting a new truck without the new truck price tag.
Exactly.
Mm.
They're sourcing used parts,
Right.
doing more of the maintenance themselves,
Yeah.
anything to keep costs down.
That's that trucker ingenuity right there.
It is. They're resilient.
They are. All right, so let's talk about another thing that can really impact a driver's well-being.
Oh, yeah.
Dispatch.
Mm.
We hear from so many drivers that it feels like dispatch is just constantly pushing, go, go, go.
All gas, no brakes.
Exactly, and it's like they don't always take into account what you're dealing with out there on the road.
And, to be fair, dispatchers, they're under a lot of pressure too.
They are.
They've got their own metrics to meet, demanding customers, constantly changing schedules.
Right.
But that doesn't make it any easier for the driver who's feeling like just a number on a screen.
Exactly. And it's like you said before, it's about seeing all sides.
Like Hervey from Life, as a trucker always says.
Yeah, you gotta understand everyone's pressures, but you also gotta stand up for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because that constant pressure from dispatch, it can lead to some serious burnout.
Oh, yeah.
And there are some warning signs you should be looking out for.
Like what?
Like dreading those calls from dispatch and using your breaks just to sleep instead of actually recharging.
Right, because sleep isn't always rest.
Exactly. Feeling irritable, snapping at your loved ones, even fantasizing about just quitting altogether.
Yeah, that's a sign.
And that feeling that no matter how hard you work, it's never enough.
That's a big one.
That's burnout talking.
It is, and it's important to catch it early.
So what can drivers do? It's not always easy to push back on dispatch,
No, it's not. But there are things you can do.
Like what?
Well, first of all, set boundaries. Be clear about what you can realistically and safely handle.
Don't be afraid to say no sometimes.
Exactly. And document everything, especially if you're being asked to do something unsafe or against regulations.
That paper trail can be important.
It can.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly clashing with a particular dispatcher,
Yeah.
see if you can request a different one. You might be surprised.
Sometimes a change can make all the difference.
It can. And here's a big one. Protect your off-duty time like it's gold.
It is gold.
It is. That time is for you to rest, to connect with your family, to do things you enjoy.
Recharge.
Recharge, exactly. And lastly, think long-term if this job is constantly burning you out.
Yeah.
Have a plan B. Start thinking about what other options might be out there.
You don't want to be caught off guard.
Nope. And remember, managing your time, it's not just about pleasing the shippers.
Right.
It's about taking care of yourself.
It's about your well-being.
Exactly.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about something that can be really tempting for drivers, especially new drivers.
Oh, yeah.
Lease-purchase agreements.
Ah, yes. The allure of being your own boss.
Right. It sounds great on paper, but the reality can be very different.
It can. And that's because a lot of these agreements are designed to benefit the carrier more than the driver.
Yeah, you end up responsible for all these costs, maintenance, repairs, insurance, fuel.
Hidden fees galore.
And you're often stuck with a truck that's already got a ton of miles on it.
Yeah, not exactly a brand new shiny rig.
And the worst part is you're still tied to the carrier's dispatch, even though you're supposed to be your own boss.
So you're taking on all the risks of ownership without the freedom.
It's like a lose-lose situation.
It can be,
Yeah.
and then there's the financial side of things.
Oh, yeah, let's talk numbers.
So you could be looking at weekly truck payments anywhere from $700 to $1,200.
Okay, that's a chunk of change.
Then add another couple hundred for insurance, maybe $100 going into a maintenance escrow account.
Which you might not even have full control over.
Right, and then all the other fees, Qualcomm trailer, rental tolls.
It adds up.
It does. And even if you have a good week, income-wise, after all those deductions, you might only take home $800 or $1,200.
That's not a lot to show for all that work.
It's not. And if freight slows down or you have unexpected repairs, you could actually end up owing the carrier money.
That's scary.
It is. And, some people even say that some carriers, they actually bank on drivers failing these programs.
Really?
Yeah, they repossess the truck and then lease it out again to someone else.
That's tough.
It is. So if you're thinking about becoming an owner-operator, there are smarter ways to do it.
Like what?
Well, first, get some solid experience driving for a company for a year or two, learn the ropes, build up your savings.
Good advice.
Then when you're ready, consider buying a used truck outright, either with cash or financing.
That way you actually own it from the start.
Exactly. And learn how to calculate your cost per mile so you understand the real economics of running your own business.
Knowledge is power.
It is. And find yourself a mentor, someone who's been there, done that.
Someone who can give you good advice.
Exactly. Because these lease purchase agreements, they can be a real trap.
Even those rare good ones, they
Yeah.
still come with more risk than just driving for a company or buying your own truck.
For sure.
So be informed, do your research.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move to cutting edge tech. Let's talk about the SAEWCX event.
Oh, yeah. What was that all about?
Well, it's basically a showcase of the future of trucking, all the new technology that's being developed.
Sounds interesting.
It is. They had everything from autonomous driving systems to alternative fuel powertrains.
So like self-driving trucks and electric trucks.
Exactly. And while we might not see those things on the road tomorrow,
Right.
the technology is advancing rapidly and it's going to impact drivers one way or another.
So drivers need to stay informed.
They do, because the trucks of the future are going to be very different from the trucks of today.
And what about alternative fuels?
Well, they're definitely gaining momentum.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more electric trucks popping up.
Electric, hydrogen, hybrid, all kinds of options.
But aren't those still pretty expensive?
They can be, especially for owner-operators,
Right.
but the trend is towards cleaner emissions and potentially more stable fuel costs in the long run.
This is something to think about.
It is, and it's not just about the trucks themselves.
What else is there?
They also showcased a lot of smart freight tech.
What's that?
Things like real-time load tracking, predictive maintenance, AI-assisted dispatching.
So basically using technology to make trucking more efficient.
Exactly. And that could have some benefits for drivers.
Like what?
Less waiting time at docks, more accurate ETAs, potentially even more transparency in pay.
Sounds good.
But it also means more monitoring, more data collection.
Right, ELDs and all that.
Yeah, so it's a trade-off.
It is, and then there's all the talk about sustainability and EV regulations.
Which means more compliance requirements for everyone.
So a lot to keep up with.
A lot, and it's going to impact everyone. Owner-operators, company drivers, fleet managers.
So we all got to stay informed.
We do. All right, let's wrap up with something that's really important but often gets overlooked.
What's that?
The impact of trucking on your personal life.
Oh, yeah, relationships?
Especially long-haul trucking, it can put a real strain on marriages and families.
It's tough being away from home for so long.
It is, and it's not just the physical distance, it's the emotional toll as well.
Right, the loneliness, the fatigue, the feeling of being disconnected.
And for the partner at home, it can be really hard too.
They're holding down the fort, dealing with everything on their own.
It's a lot to handle.
It is. And even small things can become big problems.
Like what?
Like missed phone calls, being too tired to talk when you're home, just feeling out of sync.
It can create a lot of tension.
So communication is key.
Definitely.
And it has to be more than just, how was your day?
Right. It's about really connecting.
Exactly. Share your feelings, your concerns, your hopes for the future.
And make time for each other when you are home.
Put those phones away and just be present.
Absolutely. And be aware of the signs of burnout in both of you.
Because it can affect the relationship.
Big time. And be honest about the long-term impact of trucking on your relationship.
Are you both okay with this lifestyle?
It's a conversation you need to have.
Definitely. And, we read this really touching story about a driver and his wife.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Well, their marriage was almost falling apart because of the distance and the lack of connection.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. But they decided to fight for their relationship.
Good for them.
They started making time for nightly phone calls, really listening to each other.
And they came up with a plan for the future.
Yeah, a plan that involved the driver eventually transitioning to a more home-based job.
So there's hope.
There is. It just takes effort and commitment from both sides.
It's like you said before, you got to treat your relationship with the same care you treat your truck.
Exactly. Maintenance is key.
All right. So as we wrap up here, let's connect all the dots. We've talked about how the market is volatile, how dispatch can be stressful, how those lease purchase agreements can be tricky.
We talked about Eclipses and futuristic trucks.
We did, and how all of this impacts your personal life, your relationships, your well-being.
It's all connected.
It is, and I think what's really important is to remember that you're not alone in this.
There's a whole community out there.
Exactly, and there are resources available to help you.
Like what?
Well, for starters, there's Life as a Trucker.
Oh yeah, Hervey's site.
He's got great advice, practical tips, real stories from other drivers.
It's a great resource.
It is, and if you're looking for ways to manage your time better, to maybe even build some extra income streams,
Yeah.
check out Retire from Trucking.
They got some good stuff.
Do they even have guides on using AI tools to boost your income?
AI for truckers who knew.
It's the future.
It is.
So here's our final thought for you to ponder as you're out there on the road.
All right, I'm listening.
How can you take control of your time, both on and off the clock, to create a better, more sustainable life for yourself?
That's a good question.
It is. And what's one small step you can take this week to move in that direction?
Think about it.
Think about it, because you deserve a life that's fulfilling both on and off the road.
You do. You deserve to be happy.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Drive safe out there.